I have quite a strange class brewing. Like I always worry. I've got these like 3 or 4 disconnected, not even anything to do with yoga, but they kind of do images that somehow I think go together. And unfortunately, a lot of times you all get to be the guinea pigs of whether these threads come together, but they come from actually a similar yoga pose, right? I was practicing and I was thinking, what am I gonna today? And okay, so here it goes, right? So I saw a picture of actually Molly's grandniece, Luna, who is less than a year old. And apparently she's taken to the habit of it's actually Pasarda Padottanasana, which is um legs wide and you lean forward. And when you do the full version of the pose, actually, Bethany, can you find a quick picture of it? Like with and if you can find the one where the head's on the floor, that full version, that would be great. But basically your legs are wide and you lean forward, and at first you come out, your spine stays horizontal to the ground, and then the next version you come all the way down and put your head on the floor. And so there've been times I used to be willing to do that pose actually in a weird version, which it's kind of hard to imagine a paraplegic doing that, but it would be called at times the poor man's headstand. Right there it is, right there. Okay. So Luna, I just want to have you have the image of it. So Luna, less than 1 years old, is doing that in the middle of a room and keeping her head down and, and looking at everyone for like 2 or 3 minutes. Like, so she's looking at the world upside down, just hanging out, right? And and I'm thinking about that as a sensation going, why would she be doing that? And and the answer is, adults tend to overcomplicate things. It's because it feels good, right? And it's actually pretty freaking cool to look at the world upside down, right? So the fact that she's hanging there already, wanting to look at the world upside down, is actually, and then like laughing and doing it on her head, I'm thinking, holy cow, what a great, what a great thing to do. Right. And then you think about, the newness. I was a kid that liked to hang my head off of things and look at the world upside down. I don't know if you remember doing that at all. Right. And there's something like new and fresh about that. And that the innocence, the thing about Luna's image is that, I love her name, by the way. So like if you were to go sun and moon stuff on um on that pose, if you didn't have your head down and you had your spine horizontal to the ground, your arms straight down, it's a very hard physical pose. And it's really grounded, but it's like on fire. It's more like sun energy coming out of the earth. But when you put your head down and you put your head on the top of the floor, down on the floor, it becomes much more inward, much more moon energy in it, right? And so, and poses do that. They're parts of the poses, like to oversimplify, or you know paint with too wide of a brush. I would say your bone energy is more closely aligned with the moon, and your muscular action, like lifting your chest and the things that extend your spine, and muscular control, is more like the sun. And that don't, that's not a rule. I'm just like trying to give you a description of what's qualitative. So the idea of finding space and being able to have a beginning mind about it, because Luna is not just having a beginning mind, it's her mind literally coming online, right? So, and it gets harder and harder for us to see things new, right? Things that, and we forget to just have the experience that puts us in the position. So for me, like part of a yoga practice, although we get so serious about it, especially when we go inward, and you have to go in and you center, and it's like, it's not that your brow is furrowed, but it's like this quiet, humble thing that you're partaking in, except at the same time, Luna's head's on the ground and she's upside down, right? Like being able to see inward dimension as new and as refreshing is actually part of what makes things keeps you going. So put a period in that. And then I was thinking about certain sensations, right? Um, and this actually preceded me thinking about Luna, which was one of the things I've been doing in writing this book, but also for years now. I've been trying to see things that we do that we kind of take for granted. Like, like have memory. You guys have been through some of those classes with me, and I'm thinking memory is way more than just memory, but also things like emotions and things as being innovations, like human beings developed these things and had them in relation. So like the song I was listening to this morning was Love is the Seventh Wave. Does anyone know this song by Sting? It's off of his Dreams of the Seven Turtles, right? Um, and 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 here's where one of these weird stray thoughts that I continually think about, right? I was before I wrote Waking and thinking about marketing stuff. Well, actually, Waking was about to come out. I was thinking about hiring a PR firm, which ended up not PR, a marketing firm. And the head marketer said something like very interesting. He said the greatest marketing campaign ever created by human being came down to one word, right? And it was love. He said that like to get your entire messaging, he said it was the greatest messaging that he had ever seen, right? Was the dude that got it down to one word. Now, when you think about the one word, think about what love does is it somehow gathers up your intangible energy and your tangible energy and is able to put it in relationship to the world, right? Or to a person or to an object or to whatever it is. Like it actually engages more of human consciousness than possibly any other emotion. And so when I think about emotions, stay with me now. We're getting here. When you think about emotions, one of the ways that they're an innovation is that they're the mediary between what's inside of you and what's outside of you, right? So like if I'm feeling the world and something hard happens and it makes me angry, right? Whatever happens, it's getting inside of me, and then I'm spitting it back out in a relationship, right? Or if you think about like getting sad, it again, a context makes you sad, it gets in and you move it back out. If you think about emotions themselves, and then there's also the feeling like love, where it brings it from inside to out too. Like it ends up connecting the inside of you to the outside of you, and it's an innovation. And a lot of times I've been thinking about that for a while, and I ended up taking it out of my book. I was thinking about emotions like Luna having her head upside down, like going, oh my God, this is actually something I just take for granted, right? Finally, in this, before we start practicing, the other image or thought was, wait, no, I'm freaking losing it. Was oh, it's coming. Oh, dang, I'm gonna have to, it just dropped right out of my head. I'm gonna have to start teaching without it. It'll come back to me because it's part oh, one of the things when you think about gratitude, gratitude's another sensation. If you think about when you're grateful for something, it's something happens that somehow fills something that was empty, right? Like you're grateful for this, let's say grateful for a meal, right? And because you're hungry, you're grateful that you're receiving something into something that was lost, and then it becomes beautiful. So to me, gratitude is also a transcendent sensation that integrates the tangible with the intangible. So what does this all have to do with yoga? I think everything and nothing, right? So if you think about what asana does, it tries to get you connected to the intangible part of you and then starts to help you bring it out through movement. And then eventually the yoga and asana transforms you and shows you how to be in relationship to the world. So sit up straight and tall. So when you're centering, you're trying to gather up more of you. And for months and years, I've been talking about the quiet part as being an energy source. It's not just an absence. That the parasympathetic part of the nervous system actually is getting access to an energy source. And it turns out that the energy source is concentrated in your midline, especially through your spine. So you're feeling your sitting bones, and we've gone through a lot of this. You're feeling your sitting bones. And in order to start to get connected, you have to allow that there's where the sitting bones are tangible on your chair seat. You have to allow that there's space between, and it's before you start lifting up your lower abdomen, right? You have to allow that there's potential there. Now, to do that, your eyes have to go slightly out of focus. You have to soften your organs of perception. If you want to do that well, if you do it with an active mind to try to find the space between the sitting bones, if you're judging too much, you won't get access to the energy. You have to allow that there's an energy source, like Luna's head is upside down, right? And so you then as you hit down through your sitting bones and feel a connection from the inner groin to the inner knee to the inner heel, you start to lift the lower abdomen up through your chest. But remember, you're trying to enter a stream. You're not trying to create the stream, right? So you're going down and up and through, and then you broaden across your collarbone. So you start to make sure it goes horizontal. And then you let the pulsing of your inhalation expand your rib cage, right? And then on exhalation, it comes back into the midline and extends your spine. So you've got this, right, expression of your midline going out through the fingers of your spine, your ribs, and then you're exhaling and you're making it more of a current, right? And when you exhale and you make it more of a current, you actually still broaden across your collarbones and the space between your shoulder blades. You make sure it gets horizontal too. There's a lot going on. And as your mind tries to follow it, you're likely tensing the inside of your mouth. But remember, the magic of the spine happens before judgment. it hums the entire time. Let go of your day. You're staying quiet so you can feel the midline. You're staying alert in the rest of your body without moving to make sure you remember that the midline is full of life, even though it's intangible. It's a good time for gratitude. Good. And then release. And if you can, very gently lift your sternum up. Maybe drop your chin down. Don't forget the fullness, the vertical and horizontal pulsing of your life force before movement. Raise your head up with closed eyes, open your eyes. So in this story, right, as you know, I think a lot about bones, right? Because of there's an obvious reason that for me, because I can't control the muscles in my legs, in below my chest, my bones actually deliver a lot of the sensation. So I kind of think of the bones as being kind of that goofy doi to doi energy that's in your body that doesn't have to have judgment. It just manifests. It just becomes riverbanks for your life force. And I would say that the energy of your bones is closer to the energy that I experience through my midline, right? So again, feel your sitting bones and try to go down to your heel, because somehow the heel is of the quality of energy closer to your bone energy than like the balls of your feet. But it doesn't mean the balls of your feet isn't connected. But if you can allow where your heels are, hit down with your sitting bones and just breathe, and don't overtax yourself. You're trying to allow that in what you took for granted, there's an upside down story. There's one that you forgot to look at. And in whatever version of that you're able to get this morning, make your breath congruent with that story, because breath somehow can be more congruent with what's not here than your muscles can. Good. And then release. If you can, you move around a little bit, get that lighter energy, that bouncing energy. But as you get that, can you have a beginning mind enough to look at the lightness that comes from a little bit of movement through your spine, as, from an upside down perspective? It's like, wait, it's kind of amazing. And part of what asana shows you is it shows you how to direct inward energy that's coming through the midline out through your limbs, whether you're moving or not. So again, I'm going to wake up my legs a little bit. I'm going to take my legs wide because I'm trying to see it as if I'm coming from the midline, right? So like, again, I'm taking my legs wide and I'm getting that triangle from my tailbone out to each knee. And I'm just trying to feel, so I go to that place where I feel the midline. And then I remember we're trying to open the groin a little bit, but like I'm trying to stay connected to the space that's intangible in my midline as I move and get my groin a little bit more open, right? And I do it this way, right? And I'm just trying to make sure when I move, I'm bringing the intangible midline into the river of movement. Because that's all that asana is trying to make you do, trying to get you to feel, right? So we're just doing our normal warm-up that we do almost every class, right? We're just trying to go, yeah, I gotta get more stuff open, right? More stuff open. You know, maybe do a little bit of a back bend. But again, it doesn't matter. So if you do this without moving, don't just do it with your head. You know, like, don't just like think it and imagine it. Like, let your spine, you know, even if you don't even move your spine, like, allow that there's space. If you're quiet, that's humming through your spine. Okay, so now put your hands, if you can, on your knees and push back, right? And then this idea of moving, I'm gonna lean back against the back of my chair. I'm gonna push on this leg out. And I'm gonna pull back with the other leg a little bit. And I'm gonna do it the other way, right? So I'm getting a pumping action between each leg. But in a way, when I do it from my femur bones rather than moving my whole knee, when I do it with pressure, I'm getting more closer to the energy of my spine. There's Joe coughing. I know that lower left lung lobe, right? And then so I'm getting this kind of sense of movement, right? Back and forth here, right? Because I'm trying to wake it up. And then I'm going to lean forward a little bit. And I'm going to do it now sitting more upright. So here I was doing it more back here. Right here, I'm leaning more forward and I'm rocking back and forth. Right. And now I'm starting to engage, if I can, my upper body. Right. But so once I start getting all this drama, right, all this extra input, I'm going to pause here for a second because I can tell you that I stopped feeling my spine, right? Like I didn't keep connected to my midline. You know how I know it must be spring? I'm having sugar ants appear in my house. So I'm just having a sugar ant that keeps trying to run across my keyboard. Kind of scares me, right? I had to bring that up because I just had to kill it. Feeling kind of bad here, right? But it's got to stay away from my keyboard. So, okay. So again, now this whole, when I get more of a bigger movement, whether it's a big movement or not, when I start to try to do more, my mind starts to do more, I lose track of the midline, right? So now I'm going to do it again. But the thing about the midline is we usually get so serious about it. But what if it could be had like kind of upside down, like it wasn't serious? So now I'm moving my shoulders too. And I'm going back and forth and I'm trying to make sure I include my femur bones, pulling back, pulling forward, my upper body going forward and back. Remember, you don't need to overdo it, especially if you haven't come for a long time, right? Okay, so go back and forth a little bit, right? And then, so that's one movement. And then I'm going to go forward and back a little bit, right? forward and back. So I narrow down the input, and I am trying to have both energies touch each other. So this one that's more like logical and straightforward and seeming more serious. And then I'm going to keep that with me as I start doing this again, right? But I'm trying to keep the other energy with me too. So I'm trying to keep the midline with me as I'm expressing on the outside, right? Which is like, because I can tell you when I first warmed up and I just did it this way, I wasn't bringing the midline with me. So I'm trying to include more of me in both sets of movements, right? So this one, when I just go straight forward and back, is one level. This one's another, and they need to combine, right? So when I go forward and down, so one of the reasons why you want to stay on balance, right? If I go like this down and I make sure I'm really grounded and my bones, remember the doi to doi part of my manifestation that doesn't really care what my mind's doing, right? Like I get it grounded here, right? Which allows me the structure to know where my midline is better. Now compare this base with just doing this base, right? There's a difference in knowing and accessing your midline. It doesn't mean you can't find your midline this way. It means that there's more structure that allows me to have the structure that allows me, for me at least, to be able to allow where the magic is in the midline, right? So now I'm going to twist just a little bit. I'm going to pull, but I'm paying attention to the midline as I pull. So I'm pulling on my leg, but I'm lengthening, going down to the space between my sitting bones. I'm lifting my chest up, right? But now I'm going to keep that and make it a little bit more playful again, right? So I'm trying to combine both energies. And when I do, boy, I find it to be way more fatiguing. So release for a second. So now again, we're trying to combine different energies, right? So now I'm going to come forward this way, get a good base. See, again, if you think about what I'm doing, so before you get farther into it, so there's an energy that's more, I don't know, not focused, but it's simpler here. But when I lean forward and I'm changing variables, really what I'm doing by trying to get my balance right is to simplify the feeling in my spine. If I'm off balance here, right, I can't find where the midline is. So really, although I'm in a different position, part of my work is to get it so I can feel my spine as simply as if I was here, right? So over and turn like this. And then I'm going to keep my midline and start to turn a little bit, right? But now I'm going to start combining that midline energy with that kind of level of bounce, right? What really matters is to make sure if you just do this here and you're not moving as much, there's a tendency to get too serious about it. This allows for more movement, but you still got to keep that quiet part of the midline as you're turning, right? Good, and then come back to center. Now compare that to just taking your hand on the outside of your leg and going behind you. Perfectly good pose, right? But for at least for me, I'm having a harder time. I can get the outside of my body. I can see the drama of how I can twist. I have a harder time feeling dynamic through the midline, right? So I'm going to pause here for a second. I'm going to reground my base, right? And I'm going to inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. Now I can, in a way, this twist even becomes better because there's more freedom in it, right? If I can keep the midline as connected, which the tendency is to not keep the midline in the same way. Good, and then release. So Bikas Ankar talks about augering the spine down into the earth as you're twisting, right? And, whatever that means, except what it's a perfect image, the augering of it, right? So you're gonna go the other way, right? And again, because I'm off balance, right? When I go over this, I've like flippy floppied myself, right? If I just stayed here, I could have got the same energy with all the flippy floppy. So I'm flippy flopping, and then I have to find the way to get it augured, right? The midline, but then still have the joy and the movement of it on the outer body. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. So again, I'm trying to combine multiple layers of spinal awareness and body movement into what is just a movement. Can I look at a movement upside down? Good, and then release. So I like to show myself, because it's hard to believe in the power of what's less tangible. It's hard to believe. I mean, these twists are beginning to make me taste my peanut butter toast. I don't know if that's happening to you, but it's happening to me right now, right? I like to go back and do the kind of twists that I don't really auger anything down. So I just do it on the outer body. Don't do it as well. Don't do it as deeply. And there's something about not taking it all so seriously. But notice the difference when you just do it without thinking, the way you might have twisted more when you were a beginner in yoga, right? Notice how much isn't with you. And then go, and then do that and be here. And then go the other way, right? And just kind of do it on the outside of your body without your midline. And that's all good stuff, right? Now come forward, okay? One of the reasons why you do things like dog pose, and I'm gonna put my hands on the table here, is that it's a way to make the space for you to perceive where your midline is. On this one, I can tell you that I want, rather than have my hands on the table, I'm going to put my hands on my thighs, my forearms on my thighs, right? And actually, I'll try it first this way, right? Like this. And again, I like this. It's good. I can work my arms really good, but I'm hoping that my movements can feed my spine when I come forward like this and put my hands in prayer, right? And feel my midline better. That feels more like, for me, more like the depths I was reaching in the twist that was more grounded. So now, without doing any of the arm movements, I'm going to hit down through my sitting bones and lift the space between my sitting bones up through my chest, up through the top of my head. And I'm going to breathe. So this is like, I actually am calling this a version of downward facing dog, where I'm reducing the amount of outer body drama to make sure I feel the midline, and then release. I'm going to take that feeling, right? Try to keep it with me and put my hands on the table, right? Or like this, and one's not better than the other, right? They're just different. So I like this one better than this one. This one seemed like I leaped way out into what I can't feel as much. So here, when you think about the instruction, when hands are on the table, all the stuff with the inner upper arm going up and pressing down through the index finger and broadening across collarbones and hitting down through your sitting bones, all those things that you do to do downward facing dog this way, you're actually just trying to connect to your midline again. All the instructions are trying to help you feel your midline, right? And then out through your body, broaden across the collarbones, broaden between the space between the shoulder blades, hit your inner upper groin in and down, stretch from the inner knee to the inner heel, down to the inner heel, right? Right? All those things are to reconnect you to the midline, right? Good, and then release. Actually, I'm able to do it a little bit better when for the way I'm trying to do it right now, right? By putting my wrists against my knees, hitting my knees back towards my spine, right? Grounding that way, making sure I'm pressing and extending energy out through the index mound of my finger, spreading my palms as I'm driving back this way and coming forward, right? The way I just instructed this one, I'm more like a forward bend. Don't worry about understanding that all the way. Maybe some of you can see it, right? And then release and come forward more. As you come forward, and I'm leaning on my forearms again, right? If you pick a point between each inner upper groin, about mid-thigh, so not upper groin, mid-thigh, and draw that energy back towards the navel to extend your spine forward, making sure you're broadening across the collarbones and broadening the space between the shoulder blades. And depending on where your comfort level is coming forward, you're much more like Paschimottanasana in a forward bend, right? And then if you want to take your head down some, you're down like this. So it's not so much about how far down you come, it's about whether you can get the internal dynamic between the way your legs feel, your navel receives, your very low load navel, and you extend your spine longer as you come down. Good, and then release. What happens in a forward bend, here are my legs, here's my spine. What happens in a forward bend is a practitioner gets really thinks about it's all about getting their head down to their legs, right? So they just do this and they get really sloppy at the crease here, right? Between the spine and the legs. And they think it's about coming down, right? In fact, given out what we're doing here, remember forward bends and standing poses have a lot in common, right? So I'm making this, I wish you could feel it in my hands, right? I'm making this really crisp, right? I'm stretching my hand, imagine it on my legs, right? But I'm making my hands strong here and I'm making my hands strong here. So I get it really crisp. And then I only come down as I'm lengthening my spine. I'm not just collapsing down and making a sinkhole here at the base of your spine. You're going long and down, right? So again, right, when I was doing all this stuff early in the class, pushing on the knees and having the chest and all that stuff in the very beginning, we were kind of setting up for forward bends too, right? Okay, so now you hit down, hit back, this starts to rise, right? Now you're picking a point on the midpoint of each inner upper thigh, drawing it back towards the navel. As you lengthen your spine, catch it with your chest. And for as long as you can, you keep the chest lifted. At the very end, in a forward bend, you come down like this. But it's only after you've squeezed all of the energy long before you come down. So I don't care if you only come this far. This is a better forward bend than just collapsing. This is more about your spine, right? And remember, the spine is expressing out through the limbs. And so broadening between the shoulder blades, broadening across your sacrum, That's all part of the natural way your spine is already emanating into your body. And so you're trying to maintain that truth as you come forward. Breathe. Good. And then come on back. So again, one of the, oh, I'm about to give an instruction that's a bridge too far. Is this me? Are you guys okay? Or is this being too intense? Okay. Okay. So I want you to, so I usually tell you to spread your sitting bones, you know. I don't know if I ever say that, but you can spread your sitting bones, which is the same thing as spreading your sacrum, kind of, right? But there's another thing that happens in dog pose and in a forward bend, kind of, is you spread this space across the back of your thigh. It's not just your sacrum. So try spreading across your sacrum, your very low back. That does one thing. But now take a leap of faith, go down to like the mid thigh and spread. Now, there's a way in which when you spread there a little bit, it actually propels your spine farther forward, right? So whether that makes sense or not, just allow for the space of it, right? So I'm coming forward a little bit. I'm broadening across my sacrum. And remember, I cannot move my thighs, right? So I'm going to spread though and think about broadening across my thighs, spreading across my sacrum, and then release. So I'm asking you to do a really deep inward action, right? And it's, well, I just did it kind of too well. So I'm like feeling a little bit stoned right now because my body's buzzing so deeply, right? It's like, holy cow. I haven't felt that in a long time. Okay, so um so now I'm going to do it again. So now I'm going to come forward. I'm going to spread across the sacrum and hit my sitting bones down. I'm going to spread the back of my thighs. I'm going to propel my spine forward. I'm going to lift my chest. I'm going to broaden between the shoulder blades. Now pick a point between the middle of each thigh and drive it back towards the navel. So when you do that well, it propels your spine forward, but it also sends energy down to your feet. Breathe and then release. Hmm. What the heck? Let's let the air out. Let's open a window for a second, because golly, right? So now I'm going to go back to something in the beginning of class. So hopefully you went through this deep internal movement that's maybe quotable, standing poses, forward bends, dog pose. It's no big deal, right? Now go back, keep that imprint, whatever you got out of that. And when you push your hands on your knees and push your knees, your femur bones back, and it lifts your chest, right? Now add everything. It's no big deal. Just add everything. So what you did kind of first without having your head upside down like Luna is you just kind of did this and threw it back. Holy cow, there's a big coyote in my yard. And it's actually, it's got light. Is that a dog? No, it's a coyote, but it's got a tan coat. Holy cow. Sorry for the ants and coyotes are showing up, right? What the hell? Okay, so now I'm back like this. I'm not even paying attention to the time. Oh, we're good, right? And so I'm hitting back. I'm extending down. and I'm pushing here, which I could have just done in my outer body. Now I'm trying to add everything I did as I come forward, the whole sequence. And then you start to get what's so incredible about a forward bend, right? Like it's not about touching your toes. It's not about getting your head to your knees. It's about everything else. Good, and then breathe. Now, I'm about to do something that if I were in a traditional class would be like a no-no. You don't go from forward bends to open energy, but I have come to the conclusion that too much inward action in seated asana is just not fun enough. You got to kind of have it, you got to turn it things towards the sunlight more, right? So now we're going to do exactly the same and come forward, right? And then we're going to literally be Luna and stick your head on the ground and look at the world by turning it into upward facing dog or cobra pose. And you're going to see how strangely close and similar the beginning parts of a forward bend are to the upward facing dog and cobra pose. They're weirdly similar. Well, that's hyperbole. They're not similar at all, except they are. What the hell? How could there be all these different layers? Because they are. All right, here we go. We're gonna do upward facing dog. You would never do back bends after forward bending, right? So don't do it too hard because I don't want it to make you get all weird and the rest of the day, right? So you're gonna come down and do all the things, all the action, come down towards the earth, and then say, "Damn it, my spine's going towards the sun at the end of this," and lift your sternum up and your head up. But notice when you do it this way, when your sternum goes up and your head goes up, does anyone feel your inner upper groin hit straight back? Can you feel how it goes back at the same time to help you come up towards the sun? So it comes off of the core energy of a forward bend and you choose to turn skyward with your chest, but you're deepening at the same time. Good, and then release. So if you were doing cobra or upward facing dog, you wouldn't be confronted with the dilemma. Your legs, you'd be laying on your stomach and your legs would be straight out behind you, which makes it easier on some level. And so that's why I'm trying to make a big point of not trying to like turn the depth of it up, right? So again, I'm going to come forward, I'm going to come down, I'm going to find the depth of it, and then lift up and broaden. Good, and then release. Now, here's a big no-no. So I hope you're not overdoing it if this is beginning to like, rock you, because I'm on the edge of having overdone this class. Okay, which is saying something. So now I'm going to go from slightly forward to going back and going up. Gentle though. So I'm trying to open the window on this internal energy and go up and over the back of my chair. And then back forward, come through. And as you come forward, you're going to touch the whole sequence of the class. Then you're going to put your hands on your thighs, come back, right? Move through all the depth of the class and then turn it all skyward. And then forward. I'm putting my forearms on my thighs and just breathing a little bit. I don't know about you, but This turned into a strangely intense class. So I'm taking some time to just breathe, be grounded. I'm gonna back up and do a real gentle twist, take my right hand outside my left leg. Try to feel all the different versions of the twist without much strain, but letting all the layers be with me. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. Knowing where my yoga practice today's brought me through. Back to the middle, other way. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve, but allowing for all the parts, all the layers to be in with me when I'm just moving my outer body. Breathe. Come on, back to center. I'm gonna, because I want to, you don't have to do this. I'm gonna ground myself again and do this. And that could have been done this way. It could have been done this way. All I'm going for is to continually ground as I head towards Shavasana, so I can get my bearings after having worked so deeply. So I can plug into something. It's not just quiet, it's like plugging into an underground stream that precedes all the effort. It's like another water source. And I'm just letting that be true. In order to find it, I just found myself putting my thumbs into my forehead right above my eyebrows here, because I'm really trying to get it reconnected deeply. So reconnecting to the layer that precedes all the movement we just did. Good, and then back up. So now you gotta start to allow that relief that comes from letting the chair completely hold you up. The back of your chair. As I let the chair hold me up, I find myself naturally wanting to balance my head over my neck over my torso, because I've been doing all this extra strain with a little bit of a tilt, I can tell, in my posture. So I'm trying to let the quiet energy realign me into slightly better alignment, so the support of the chair can come in more equally into me. Lips together, teeth slightly apart. Your mouth is like a cave, but at the same time, let go of your teeth and your gums. Relax your belly to relax your throat. Allow the hum. Feel your breath. Don't change it. This place of quiet. It's a good place to be grateful for. It's maybe the part of you that's gathered up by love, but the quiet place is actually also the source of relief and movement. All those things at once. Start to bring yourself back. Slightly deeper inhalation, slightly longer exhalation. Open your eyes, let the light in. So, a couple of things. First of all, Michael, it looked to me like that was the one, and I couldn't tell from the screen, but it looked like that was one of the more calm shavasana's I've ever seen. And I don't know if you found a position for your neck or something that allowed you to be more still, but whatever it is, it seems like a breakthrough to me. So just know that I saw it. For I want to thank all of you for participating in Kiss My Asana. It was quite a week. There was a lot of work involved, and our small but mighty group showed up. So that's a very good thing. I will stay on after for any comments or questions or reactions. And there's not much more to say, except I think, at least for me, I'm gonna have to rest a little bit. That class went pretty deep on me, right? So maybe for you too. Namaste. Spirit in me bows the spirit in you.